1999, and Médecins Sans Frontieres receives the Nobel Peace Prize. For over 30 years, MSF has combined medical assistance with standing up for human rights. MSF was set up in 1971 by a group of French doctors who'd been appalled by the absence of medical and humanitarian aid in the Biafran War. Today, MSF has offices in 18 countries. It's gained a reputation throughout the world for fearlessness and excellence, but also, some would say, of arrogance, of deliberately being a maverick in the aid community. But what motivates the Médecins to give up comfortable and often well-paid occupations to work in areas of conflict and destitution? In our series, Doctors on the Front Line, MSF has allowed our film crews unique access to their missions in Haiti, Sudan, Honduras and Somalia. We'll see how it delivers a lot more than medical aid and find out what makes highly qualified people become humanitarian legionnaires.
Go straight to St. Joseph's Hospital, where treatment is free. If you're wounded by a bullet, a knife or a stick, if you're a victim of a fight, an accident or burns. If you have broken bones, go straight to the St. Joseph's Hospital.
MSF is in Haiti because of Hurricane Jeanne in 2004. As that emergency subsided, it became clear there was a man-made everyday emergency. There was virtually no facility for treating the victims of escalating street violence. By December 2004, MSF had taken over the management of St. Joseph's Hospital to treat the gunshot victims.
It's a gunshot wound again. It's a graze. They were shooting at somebody and the bullet grazed her.
She just happened to be there?
Well, she was walking by. She was just out for a stroll.
Even Haiti's violent past has left 8.5 million Haitians unprepared for what they're experiencing now. Since President Jean-Bertrand Aristide was forced into exile by an uprising and American and French pressure in February 2004, political and gang violence has reached unprecedented heights. A 7,500-strong contingent of UN peacekeeping troops is doing little to prevent an undeclared war raging on the streets. Civilians are caught up in a complex struggle for power between pro- and anti-Aristide gangs, the police force of the interim government and the former military. At first, the fighting was confined to the slums of Port-au-Prince, but today, no part of the city of 2 million is spared. Violence can erupt anywhere. St. Joseph's, the Medecins Sans Frontieres hospital, is no exception. Dr. Deborah Jenkins, an American anaesthetist, witnessed a shootout outside the hospital 2 days before.
It's like firecracker, but loud. 2 people died. Yeah. Where that gray truck, where that gray car is, right there, right across the street, is where one of the guys, who was actually a bystander, from what we understand, was shot 3 times.
Dr. Jenkins says she now knows what it's like to live in chronic fear, but she isn't discouraged.
I came here for a very short 3 week to fill in a gap, an urgent gap. And so if I didn't have other plans, I would stay. I would stay probably 2 months. After 2 months as an anesthetist or surgeon, it's very difficult to stay longer than that at one time, because what you deal with is so intensive, and you deal with such pain all the time. But otherwise, no, it's a good experience here for me, because I think this kind of work is my mission.
Why are you doing this?
We do this to detect guns, because it's forbidden to enter here with a gun.
Does it happen often?
Yes, every day.
Fear of reprisals is all-pervasive here. Most people don't want to give their names, and they don't want to be recognised. Throughout this film, the faces of those who said they did not want to be recognised are obscured.
He saw a gang of gunmen who asked him what he was doing in the neighbourhood. He told them he'd come to see his mother, so they put him in this position, like this, and they shot him in both hands.
They put his hands on his feet?
Yes.
Did he know these people?
No.
He says he's afraid of that neighbourhood. He says that even if his mother was dying, even if he has to go there, he'll never go back there again. Never.
This patient came to the hospital 3 weeks ago with multiple gunshot wounds. He needs more surgery. He was shot with explosive bullets. In Haiti, the type of bullet used tells you who shot the gun. The police and the UN use high-speed ammunition. The gangs use homemade explosive bullets called Creole, and the civilians use 38 or 45 caliber bullets, what Miriam Goos-Larsen calls the nice ones. Contrary to the popular view, MSF favours local recruitment. Miriam is a Haitian and is now expert in treating gunshot wounds.
Most of the time we see explosive bullets and high-speed bullets. They put fragments of lead in the explosive bullets, or soil, anything they can find which can explode inside the body.
Is it difficult to operate?
Yes, it's difficult to operate. It's difficult, but we must do what we can. Make the best of a bad situation, make it as acceptable as possible. We can't give them a treatment or a total reconstruction that would put things back to normal like before, but we manage to minimise the damage. That's what we do here, minimise the damage.
But then it's war surgery.
Exactly. It's war surgery. It's war surgery. But people are using less and less urban weapons and authorised weapons. They use things that are meant to kill, to hurt and all that. To hurt as much as possible. That's the problem.
Pour tuer, pour faire du mal et tout ça. Donc le plus de mal possible, c'est ça le problème.
The conflict is not a straightforward one between the followers of the ousted president and the police of the interim government. Some of the gangs are criminals fighting each other for turf. At night, shots can be heard coming from the two most notorious shanty towns, Bel Air and Cité Soleil. In the daytime, it's back to business as usual. Things look normal in the city centre. It almost feels safe, until, that is, you enter Bel Air, a densely populated Aristide stronghold. Empty streets and silence.
The main thing here is the lack of noise and cars. In fact, when there is a car, they think it's the police, and they're always afraid, because only the police come here.
Olivia Géraud is a nurse by profession, but here in Port-au-Prince, she is the interface between the often suspicious people of the shantytowns and MSF. Nearly everyone here says the enemy they fear most is the police of the interim government. They say they behave like any criminal gang. This woman says her husband was shot dead by the police the day before.
3 men in black, one with a mask, the other 2 without, came and asked how many people were living here. I said, it's me and my children only. So the man in black put his hand on my child's head and said, "Little bandit, I'm going to kill your dad and you'll stay without a father. You will replace him, no problem. Next week we will kill you." I said nothing. He pushed me in the back and said, "Let's go." So my husband came out and said, "I'm the father of the children." They put a gun to his throat. They told me, "You said there was nobody in the house." And they also put a gun to my throat. They told my husband, "Run, run." He looked at me. Then another man with a mask came, and they shot at my husband. He fell. Then they finished him off with bullets. I got a shot in the leg too, and I fell. One of the masked men jumped on my leg.
You see young people of 20 with rotting limbs, who have gunshot wounds and who need an amputation, who refuse to come out because they're afraid, who prefer to stay at home in their beds, to suffer and die, and that's very tough.
Rester chez eux, dans leur lit et souffrir et mourir. Et ça, c'est très difficile.
In Port-au-Prince, especially in Cité Soleil, the UN is also caught up in the cross-currents of urban warfare. It's difficult to tell one faction apart from another. In the pro-Aristide quarters, the Brazilian UN contingent is not seen as impartial. For Ali Beznachi, a Frenchman and an MSF veteran, this mission beats them all. He's caught bang in the middle of all the faction fighting. The presence of the film crew is yet one more headache he doesn't need. He makes it very clear. MSF keeps its distance from the UN troops, and so should the film crew while it films with them.
Ils sont considérés comme des combattants, et donc d'être à proximité est une source de danger pour nous.
They are fighters, and being near them is a source of danger for us. There were incidents in June with Red Cross workers who were caught in the crossfire, who were then arrested by the UN forces. They were beaten, they were imprisoned for several hours. So we want to avoid any confusion. We have nothing to do with any armed groups, and the UN is part of the armed factions.
On veut éviter la confusion et on n'a rien à voir avec les groupes armés. Ils font partie des acteurs armés.
The film crew adhered to the mission head's injunction, but later the UN was asked for a response to this criticism. No reply has been received. That day, the police came to St. Joseph's. They knew that only the gravely wounded would risk going to the MSF hospital. It's an ideal place to locate their quarry. There were long and heated discussions. The police refused to be interviewed or filmed. MSF was refusing entrance to the hospital without an arrest warrant. But the police forced their way in and arrested a man. Nobody knew if he was the one they'd come for, but a local human rights organisation called Carly was contacted by MSF to keep track of him. They said it was the only safeguard against a summary execution.
There is a legal framework, laws, constitution, a criminal code, a criminal procedure, and then the police ethics code. If all that was respected, there wouldn't be a problem. But they don't respect it. They want to come in whenever they want. They suspect everybody, children, women, everybody, and that's just not possible.
In the evening, the fighting flared up again. Terence O'Keefe is a British surgeon based in the United States. He's on an emergency call. Dr. O'Keefe's doing a 2-month stint in Haiti between jobs. He told us he had wanted to help MSF because he had always admired its devil-may-care approach and intolerance of red tape. He volunteered his services. He was expecting an assignment in Africa but ended up in Port-au-Prince. The medical conditions are difficult, but the surgeon says for him it's a voyage of improvisation.
When I went in, my heart was beating a little bit faster because I don't know exactly what I'm going to find. We have a system here where we're called by radio to be alerted there's an emergency. And yeah, I don't know what I'm going to find, but I can only do my best.
Monsieur, il faut que tu lâches ça. Vous avez douleur?
Côté douleur, côté format. On dit qu'il va format. Non, mais on dit qu'il va. Là, format.
The wounded man is 18 years old, and has waited over 6 hours before mustering the courage to come to the hospital. Somehow, the police have found out, and they are waiting outside the gates of the hospital.
Anterior, posterior, so this is our chest tube. It's in good position. Doesn't look like we've got any bleeding. There's no hemothorax, but this is all air. You can see this is a line here. That line represents the lung. Now normally that would be it in terms of treatment. All you'd have to do is put the chest tube in and leave it. He simply had a through-and-through gunshot wound. But the problem is he has this sucking chest wound where all these bits are. So I'm going to have to go in there and actually fix it and look and see where the problem is. He may even have a hole in his diaphragm. If he has a hole in his diaphragm, I have to go into his belly and look and see if there's something injured in his belly, and then we can fix the diaphragm from either above or below. But anyway, whatever happens, it looks like we're going to the operating room.
The patient was going to survive, but it was to be a long and uneasy night. The slightest sound puts everybody on edge.
What is it? A car? For the hospital? No, for a nurse.
The next day, the police returned to St. Joseph's.
Allô, Maître Douville.
Hello, Maitre Deauville. Hello, this is Ali from MSF. Listen, I'm going to the hospital now. Apparently the police are there. Can you come? Okay, thanks a lot. See you.
D'accord, merci beaucoup. Hein. À tout de suite.
Are they coming?
I called our friend, the lawyer, so that he can certify the procedure with us.
Pour qu'il constate la procédure avec nous, quoi.
Isn't it too much, 2 days in a row?
Yes, it's a lot.
Isn't it stressful?
Yes, it's stressful. It's stressful for the people, for the team, and for the wounded. If they're taken away, we don't know where they're being taken.
But aren't you afraid for your own safety? I thought yesterday was pretty violent.
Yes, of course I'm afraid for my safety. Mine and the safety of all the people working here, the patients and all. We've really reached the limit here.
The police have come for what they say is a gang member who'd been taken to the hospital by the UN troops. This time, they had an arrest warrant, so MSF has to let them in. But the doctors were opposed to moving the patient so soon after an operation. Their objection is ignored, and the patient is arrested and allegedly transferred to the state hospital, where the police say they can keep him under surveillance.
So, let's make this clear. We are opposed to him leaving the hospital. Medically, his doctor, the one who operated on him, doesn't agree with it, so his transfer is your responsibility. We'll follow up on this man. If something happens to him, we'll make it public, because he's been taken away when medically it was not yet possible. Is that understood?
How are you going to continue now?
I don't know. I don't know. It's the second time in a day. I mean in 2 days. I don't know.
Inside, brain surgery was underway. A gang had shot this man in the head in front of his wife and 3 daughters. The gunman wanted his car and would have finished him off if his wife and daughter hadn't intervened. The operation saved his life, but he's paralysed on his right side and may never recover full powers of speech. But the doctors are pleased with his progress. His family is relieved, but they are afraid to go back home. The people who attacked him live in the same neighbourhood. Close to St Joseph's, MSF has opened a rehabilitation centre.
What's this wound?
I don't know. Darling, who did this to you? Who wounded you, sweetheart?
Police.
The police shot her.
By the end of October 2005, 10 months after MSF started running the hospital, 5,646 victims of violence had been treated at St Joseph's. The rehabilitation centre was opened in March 2005. They are developing a mental health section. The head of mission says there hasn't been the upsurge of violence he feared. In October, 68 gunshot victims were treated compared to 204 in June. People get accustomed to violence, as one Haitian working for MSF told the crew. When you walk down the street, you don't know whether you're still alive or already dead. Next week, follow doctors on the front line in southern Sudan. The hospital in Marialou is notorious as Medecins Sans Frontieres' most difficult posting.